Wouldn't it be awesome if you could just sit around all day and practice guitar? You'd probably get pretty good, huh? Not necessarily. And that's not always about how much you practice. And you don't really need to practice all day long to become the guitarist that you want to be. And I'm going to prove it to you. Chances are you're like most people. You have work and family and obligations and other hobbies and all kinds of stuff. And if you're really lucky, maybe you squeeze in a half hour or an hour of guitar each day. And despite all that, you still want to keep improving. You still want to get better at the instrument. You just can't find the time. And that's exactly why I made this video, to show you how to get the most out of a small amount of practice and become the guitar player that you want to be. Most of my students are working adults who are in this exact same situation. They work all day, they come home, and they have a little bit of time to practice. And it's basically my job to teach them how to reach their potential with minimum time available. And so that's exactly what I'm here to show you today. I'm going to give you 3 simple tips that you could start implementing today that will allow you to get better in less time. Now, I gotta mention, this isn't some magic pill that's gonna turn you into Hendrix overnight. And it's probably not gonna work if you only practice or play guitar 2 or 3 times a week for a few minutes. But if you're serious about getting better and you have the discipline to put in 30 minutes or an hour of practice each day, then I guarantee you're gonna be a completely different player in a month. Okay, so for starters, you have to treat this idea like you would if you wanted to lose weight. You can't go on a diet for 2 days and then eat a whole pizza and a pint of ice cream and expect to lose any weight. It's something you have to stick with in order for it to pay off. Now, the most important thing is maximizing the benefit you get from playing guitar each day. And since your time is already limited, you need to be improving every single minute of your practice session. And so that means tuning your guitar, looking for your pick, rearranging your pedal board, deciding which song to play. None of that counts towards practice. And here's the kicker. Neither does playing your songs from beginning to end. There's a big difference between playing and practicing. And so you have to separate the idea of playing your tunes with improving in progress and getting better at the guitar. So the first tip is to not allow yourself to play your songs until you've put in a practice session for the day. You didn't practice today? Then no songs. If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding, as a famous band once put it. Make playing your songs something that you have to earn every single day. You'll be more motivated to get your practice session in earlier in the day so that you can kick your feet up at the end of the night, play through your songs, and relax. I know it sounds harsh, like I'm trying to take the fun out of playing guitar, but I'm really not. I just know that it takes a certain level of discipline to become a better guitar player than you are right now. And besides, if playing your songs for the 100th time was going to actually make you any better, you'd be Jimmy Page by now. But you're not, because it doesn't make you any better. It clearly isn't working, and so something has to change. And that something is putting in real practice time and way, way less playing time. Before you sit down, you have to know exactly what you're going to do and for how long. I mean, you think like an NFL coach shows up to practice with no plan and no idea what to do for the day, like he just wings it? No. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows exactly how he's going to get it done. And that's how he arrives at practice. And that's exactly how you need to be. You need to arrive to a practice session with a plan. And that starts with keeping a practice journal. So you go out and you buy a brand new notepad. Don't use the computer. Because when you go on the computer, you're going to get distracted. You're going to go to Ultimate Guitar, you're going to go somewhere else, look up some YouTube videos, and next thing you know, you're wasting your practice session. And every single day, you write in that practice journal. You didn't practice for the day, you write a big fat X across that page. Hold yourself accountable and force yourself to get better as a guitar player. Now, speaking of goals, you need to know exactly what your goal is every single time you sit down to practice. So if you know you have 30 minutes to practice and you know your hammer-ons are kind of weak, then you need to set a goal for that 30 minutes that you can reach, that you could potentially accomplish in that 30 minutes that will help further your progression on hammer-ons. So that means you need to find some hammer-on exercises beforehand and decide how long you're going to practice each one to fill up that 30 minutes. So let's say you have 3 hammer-on exercises. A chromatic scale one, and alternating finger 1, and a hammer-on shift. So you got 3 exercises now, and you got 30 minutes. So you split them up, 10 minutes on each one. And remember, looking for the exercises beforehand does not count as part of your practice. And so you got these 3 exercises, but that's not a goal yet. That's just a plan. A goal would be something like, I need to play exercise 1 perfectly 5 times in a row without a single mistake, no dead notes, no anything, before I can move on. That's a goal. And so now you have a concrete goal, 5 times perfectly, and an amount of time in which you have to achieve that, 10 minutes. And if you don't accomplish that goal in the 10 minutes, that's fine. Move on to the next exercise and try that one again tomorrow. If you do accomplish it, and let's say it only takes you 5 minutes to hit those perfect 5 repetitions, well, now you still have 5 extra minutes allotted for that exercise, which means you have to make things harder for yourself. You have to stick with the same general exercise, but you've got to try to tweak it so that it's now more challenging. Bump up the metronome a few notches. Play it backwards. Change strings or reverse the finger pattern. Anything you can do to make that exercise more challenging and set a new goal for yourself for the next 5 minutes. And then you do the exact same thing for the next 2 exercises. So now you got your 30-minute practice session laid out. You know exactly what to do and for how long and what you're trying to achieve in that time. You've got an actual roadmap for progress and success. Awesome. So now you're done. You go back to your journal where you pre-planned your session. And now it's time to do an after-action report. How did your practice session go? Did you meet every goal? How long did it take to meet each goal? Did you succeed at some things and fail at others? How long did it take? Did you have to make things easier or harder for yourself? Did you have to readjust your goals? You need to jot all of that info down on that practice session sheet. At the end of the day, you should have some really good details about how that practice session went. And after a week or two, you should have some really recognizable patterns popping out of your practice journal. Maybe you notice that you succeed at exercises when you practice them for 15 minutes, but fail after practicing them for 10 only. Or maybe you notice that your BPM is always too high and mid-practice session you have to readjust and lower it in order to meet the goal. Or maybe you're not getting better at all and you want to know why. So you look back at your journal and you notice, oh, there's a ton of big fat X's across the page, which means I didn't practice those days. Now it's not a surprise why you didn't get much better. These are all really important data points for you to collect so you can fine-tune your practice and become more efficient over time. You become a better practicer, which means you'll progress way faster, and you're still just doing it with the same amount of time. In a month or so, you'll know exactly how long you need to practice everything. And you'll have a ton of experience of setting goals and achieving them. And you're just going to stack up victories day after day. It's a lot better. It's a way better recipe for success. So now you're keeping a detailed journal, you're recognizing patterns, you're committing to practice, you're staying consistent, but you're still not getting the most out of your practice session. There's still something missing. You need to play fewer notes. To understand why I say that, you need to realize something really, really important. You're not in control of your own playing. Your brain is. And no, you and your brain are not the same thing. If you controlled things, if you controlled your fingers, they would do exactly what you wanted. But they don't. So something else is controlling them, and it's not you. Your fingers do what your brain tells them to do. And this comes down to motor learning and how our brain learns to control movement. I mean, basically, your brain is a replication machine. It does whatever it does most often. You put your right shoe on first, or you tend to cross your left arm over your right. And you do these things subconsciously because that's what your brain has been programmed to do. And it feels weird to do the opposite. And guitar is no different. Pay attention the next time you practice and you try to play something really hard on the guitar. How soon after playing that do you attempt another repetition? I already know the answer. It's immediately. Now, if you go through a practice session and run rep after rep after rep, and most of them aren't clean or aren't correct, then that's what your brain is going to learn. It's going to learn, hey, when we play this thing, we play it in a way that ends in failure. You're feeding your brain the wrong inputs and expecting it to be able to sort out the correct ones and separate them from the bad ones. Spoiler alert, it won't be able to do it. It'll associate whatever that music is with the outcome that happens most of the time. And if the outcome that you get most of the time is failure, then that's the association your brain is going to make. This music equals playing it in a way that ends in failure. And this is why you can practice for hours and still not get any better. I know all of you watching this can recognize that you put in practice time and you really try and nothing happens. This is exactly why. Because the majority of what you're practicing is wrong. So when your brain takes over and goes on autopilot, that's what comes out of your guitar. In order to really get better, you need to give your brain the highest quality input you possibly can, which means taking a lot of time on each repetition, making sure every movement is perfect and the best you can possibly come up with. And after each rep, you have to take time and analyze what just happened, whether it was a good one or a bad one. If it failed, where did it go wrong and why? And if you can't answer that, don't allow yourself to play another one. You have to figure out why it didn't work, because only then can you solve it. And by attempting another one, once again, you're falling back in the pattern of teaching your brain to make mistakes. Now, doing this, you'll play fewer notes in a practice session. But this is about improving. And if you can recognize your own mistakes, then you can improve. If you just constantly run reps hoping for a good one, it's not going to work. It hasn't yet. It's not going to magically start working. By doing it methodically like this, it'll give your brain time to digest what just happened and what corrections you want to make. And then it'll be way more likely to actually implement them on the next repetition if that's where your focus is. Now, getting the most out of a practice session means improving every single minute during that time. But the main thing is by staying disciplined and practicing instead of playing, keeping a detailed journal and looking for patterns, and analyzing every single rep before you play another one, you're going to maximize that 30 minutes or hour of practice time. You'll be able to get done in 30 minutes what used to take you 2 or 3 hours because you're not wasting a single second. And if for some reason you just can't practice one day, it's not the end of the world. There are actually a ton of exercises that you can do, driving in your car, sitting at your desk, standing in line. There are a ton of ways you can improve on guitar without even having a guitar in your lap. And if you want to know what those ways are, check out this video. And let me know in the comments how you're planning on changing your practice routine. I'd love to hear what goals you're setting and how you're going to maintain discipline during your daily practice. And like the great podcaster and Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink likes to say, discipline equals freedom.